No, aloha pomehana. I will call to order the meeting of the OHA Committee on Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment. I understand that we have one excused absence, Trustee Galutaria, and I see that Trustee Ahuna has joined us. Mahalo. And I understand that Trustee Alapo will be joining us shortly. Nathan, can I please have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Aquina is Trustee Alapa is late. Board Chair Lindsay.
Here.
Okay. Trustee Souza.
Yo.
Board Vice Chair Trask.
Present.
Trustee Wahe'e.
Present.
Chair Akaka.
Ayo.
Trustee Ahuna.
Ayo.
And Trustee Aquina.
7 trustees present. We have a quorum.
Do you have me on board, Trustee Aquina?
Yes. Yes,
Thank
Trustee.
you.
Mahalo. Mahalo, Nathan. Welcome to the meeting of the Committee on Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment. As a reminder, please mute your device's microphone until you need to speak to eliminate any background noise which may make it difficult to hear and affects the quality of sound on this live stream. Trustees in the OHA Kapohana and OHA Kapunui who are joining us by video conference today, please enable your camera if you're able to do so. All other OHA staffers, please enable your camera when you need to address the board. When you would like to speak, please unmute your mic and adjust the chair to be recognized. When the chair recognizes you, please speak. Please mute your mic when you are done. Trustees and all in attendance, we are reminded to conduct ourselves with decorum and must respect the speaker recognized by the chair during our meetings as set forth by Article 17 and on our order and decorum of the OHA BOT bylaws. And in other words, Makia mahui ana, aloha aku, aloha mai, aloha kikahi kikahi. Nuleila, in these meetings, please, let's aloha one another in our words and in our actions. And with that said, I will now call upon our kapunui to introduce the administrative staff joining us today.
Mahalo, Madam Chair Akaka. Aloha mai trustees. Joining us in support from administration on this meeting today is Interim General Counsel Everett Ota, CFO Ramona Hink, Chief Advocate Keopu Relitz. We have our Public Policy Manager Chantel Belai. We have our Interim Senior Legal Counsel Nichio Ozawa. And we are always supported by our IT staff. We have our Solutions Technician Kelsey Wade and our Systems Engineer and Administrator Arlene Aguinaldo. And I'm scanning and that's it. Mahalo, Madam Chair.
Mahalo kapunui. We will now proceed on to Roman numeral number 2, unfinished business under Section A. And also we have a notice to share of the 72-hour rule pursuant to OHA BOT Operations Manual, Section 49, and that shall be waived for distribution of new clothing materials. Nathan, are there any testifiers on our first order of business for 2024 OHA State Legislative Package, Matrix 1?
Chair Akaka, there was one testifier, but I don't see her register. I don't see her name as registered right now. So.
Okay, mahalo. With that said, then we will now hand it over to Kapunui and Keopu.
Mahalo, Madam Chair. Yes, we'll go directly to Chief Advocate Keopu.
Aloha kakahiaka. I will start us off just as we have the last couple of weeks by sharing the calendar so we can all get a sense of where we are in the legislative session. We are somewhat, let's call it the halfway point for the legislative session. It's halfway sort of in the timing, but we are not yet at crossover. So currently we're at February 21st, which means we're about a week away from the single referral filing deadline and the first decking. So we've got a week left. I will let folks know that we are finally seeing Fin and WAM scheduling their hearings. So hearings and notices are coming out fast and furious, as well as any of the judiciary committees that had sort of that second round, similar to WAM or Fin, or who have a single referral. So I just want to give folks a sense of where we are right now. So we're about a week out from the deadline for first decking and single referral, and about 2 weeks out from first crossover. So that's where we are now. Happy to take any questions before we jump into Matrix 1. Okay, and with no questions, I'm going to ask our public policy manager, Chantel, to share Matrix 1 for us. So thanks to the feedback from last week, we did pull down Matrix 1 to honor, as was noted, what is actually voted on as the OHA package. So currently, we do only have 2 measures introduced, which are the companions for OHA 1. I'll go over those shortly, but just a quick update on OHA 2, 3, and 4. We are working with staff to discuss OHA 3 and 4 and are hoping to get OHA 2 and 3 and any remaining resolutions introduced within the next week and a half. We are working with legislators to get those introduced ahead of the March 8th substantive reso deadline. So we're still ahead of that deadline, and we are working on securing introducers, hopefully in both House and both chambers, House and Senate, for the resos. As for our OHA 1, so when we last talked, it was just before the double referral deadline. And so we were hoping we would get, and we were excuse me, in regular contact with House Ag Chair and Vice Chair to see if we could get a hearing scheduled. Unfortunately, our House bill was not scheduled. We did speak with legislators to sort of get a sense of why it was not scheduled. We did hear that the Department of Agriculture did have some concerns, so I do have a reach out to the department to find out if we can find a common path forward. And in the meantime, we did actually get a hearing scheduled for SB 2447. So SB 2447 is the Senate companion for the board for OHA 1. We were not actually able, it was originally a double referral. We were not actually able to get, when I spoke with senators in both the Ag Committee and the Hawaiian Affairs Committee, they weren't actually, it was a scheduling conflict. So what they did was actually get it re-referred to a single joint committee. And so I'm happy to announce that we did get a hearing for this Friday for OHA 1 in the Senate. So we are hoping that it will continue on. If it does pass out of this committee, it will make crossover because it's a single referral. I think that's about it that I have for Matrix 1, but happy to take any questions.
Mahalo, Kyoko. Members, are there any questions or comments regarding Matrix 1? Seeing none, we will now move on to our Matrix 2. And before I call upon Kyoko again, Nathan, are there any testifiers for this agenda item?
Chair Akaka, we had one testifier registered, but I don't see her name as logged on.
I will now hand it back to Kyoko.
Mahalo, Chair. So if I could ask Chantel to put up Matrix 2 for us. Again, so what you'll start seeing in both this Matrix 2 and Matrix 3 is a lot more grayed out. So just a reminder for folks that grayed out means that they are no longer live bills. So that means they won't be moving forward for the remainder of the session. I do want to sort of acknowledge that, especially in Matrix 3, it can get a little bit clunky to look through between the sort of grayed out and not grayed out. So next week we will have it a little bit better organized. I apologize for that, where the grayed out will be at the bottom. So it'll be a little bit easier to sift through. But I just want to sort of acknowledge that before we jump into Matrix 2. So the big update for Matrix 2 is the SB 3336, which is the Public Land Trust Working Group bill, did receive its hearing and passed with fairly minor amendments. The only amendment that was really, I think, substantive was accepting the state procurement office's a request for amendments, which was essentially asking for a competitive process when bidding for any of the services, which is one of their pretty standard requests for amendments. And so now we're awaiting WAM hearings, and staff, advocacy staff will be making those hearing requests ongoing, and we'll continue to until we, because we do have, again, that week. We're in crunch time, but we still have a lot of time. So again, the WAM and FIN committees have only just begun scheduling their hearings. So we're starting to make that push now, and hope to have by next week an update on a hearing date, or perhaps decision-making on that, so that it can move forward to go to crossover. So that is I think the biggest update at this point for trustees. We do have a number of other bills that are still live at this point, but none that we are looking to sort of raise attention on at this point. I do also want to let you know that item 7, I believe we shared with you last time, because it was a triple referral, but HB 2762 is no longer a live bill. So that was the gaming bill that was introduced by Representative Holt. So I did want to let folks know that that is not moving forward. It did not get the hearing it needed. And then the carryover bills, we will hopefully start to see some movement on some of the carryover bills probably in the next 2 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks. So hopefully we'll have more updates on those. But that's the main updates that I want to provide trustees for Matrix 2. Happy to take any questions.
Members, any questions or comments regarding Matrix 2? Seeing none. And just to make sure, you're probably Matrix 2 then? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on now to Matrix 3. Nathan, do we have any testifier sign up for Matrix 3?
Chair Akaka, we did have one person registered, but I still don't see her name as online.
Mahalo. I will now hand it back to you.
Mahalo, Chair. And so I will wait for Chantel to put up Matrix 3. As I mentioned previously, there's a significant amount of bills that did not get, that we were watching, that did not get the hearings, the sort of their first hearing, basically, or second if it was a triple needed. There was a couple we wanted to bring to your, I just wanted to highlight for you folks up front. And then there were 2 bills we wanted to bring to your attention to ask for consideration of changing of positions. But let me give you the highlights first, and then I will jump into those changing of positions, if that's okay. So the first, we just wanted to highlight, there was one bill that we've been monitoring, that we have been monitoring it, and then after sort of watching the testimony come in, as well as watching the hearing, item number 1, SB 2659, which incorporates a regenerative framework. It's state planning when it comes to tourism, essentially, and state functions with tourism. We'd like to recommend, that's a new bill. As I had mentioned, we've been monitoring and doing analysis, and it was one that we decided we wanted to bring in front of the board for approval on the position of support. We felt like it is a promising sort of proposal to really start to think through, as we either move away from tourism and phase out tourism, or as we start to adapt tourism in any way, shape, or form, it needs to change to have any level of sustainability, particularly for Native Hawaiians. And so we thought this was a promising measure that would allow us, basically have the state ensure that they're taking this kind of approach. And there are pretty significant measures that require understanding and consideration of impacts to Native Hawaiian culture, spaces, cultural sites that are important to us, historic sites that are important to us. So I did want to bring that one to your attention. Another one I wanted to bring to your attention was item number 2, SB 2051. So this was another one that we had been monitoring, and it did not make the last matrix, but we did want to let trustees know that we are recommending support with amendments for this bill, which would require the State Council on Developmental Disabilities to collect data and submit a report on the disparities experienced by individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities. On this one, the amendments are really looking for essentially indicators that will help us understand the cultural appropriateness of program services and outcomes, and ensuring that the data is collected in a way that is really understanding the breadth and experiences of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And then the items 3 and 4 were the two other ones I wanted to ensure. I'm sorry, items 4 and 5 were the ones I wanted to ensure folks, trustees are aware of. As folks might have remembered, because I don't know that we've talked about this for a little while since the beginning, one of the measures that we had flagged as one of our highest priority education bills for this session were positions relating to, is essentially establishing 13 positions in the Kaipuni schools. This was, so for the genesis of it was that my understanding it was, they had requested it be included in the governor's package, but it was not. And so they brought a House and Senate companion to try to get these positions established. So we have been supporting these measures, both of these measures. They got hearings very quickly, which is why we haven't brought them up again, but now we're waiting for those money committees to hear them. I did want to let trustees know we have been working with Ahakaoleo to kako'o them and following their lead, but also providing the support that's needed to see these measures through to the final stretch of the legislative session. So these two bills, you may have seen, we did have an action alert go out yesterday. Thanks, big mahalo to the comm staff who both got the email alert out as well as got social media posts up so that we can try to drive some traffic to make hearing requests of the FIN and WAM committees. So those are the main sort of highlights I wanted to bring forth to folks. If it's possible, I will stop here. I'm sorry, I didn't see there was a question, so I will pause here.
Thank you.
Before I move on.
Board Vice Chair Travis.
No, thank you. I wanted to take a look at the comments that we had made with regards to the Senate Bill 2659, Ka'opu. I would like to take a look at what was proposed by the Tourism Functional Plan. And also I would like to take a look at the testimony that we submitted in support. The reason why is because not too long ago, we had the situation that arose in Keaukaha, Panaeva, where tourism buses were being sent down to the student education area at the ocean. And I wanted to take a look at what we're doing here for the regenerative framework. Colleagues, the last time we saw this explored was a few years ago. And the plan that emerged at that time was that OHA would give up Kaka'ako and instead take a casino because they were looking at tourism being an income driver, needing the capital. That's why I want to do a deep dive on this. The other one, though, is the Senate Bill 2069. That's the Kapapakayapuni funding. Is that safe in your mind, Keopu? Is it possible that we may lose this funding?
So I'll tackle the regenerative tourism one. We actually did not submit testimony in support of this because I felt like it needed to come in front of the board and get the board's discussion and approval. I didn't feel comfortable doing that until we got your folks' approval. So I am more than open to take any and all discussion on this and to inform what we do next if it does get another hearing. So I just want to assure you on that one. And then for the Kaiapuni one, those are actually new positions, establishing new positions with new funding. It had us, of the hearings that I've gone to, it has had some of the most significant amounts of testimony. So over, I think one was over 200 pages worth of testimony.
Right.
And I know OHA Leo has been working very closely with the Department of Education to ensure that, you know, everyone's sort of lockstep in these positions. But until we see whether or not it's going to get a fin and wham hearing, I'm really, it's hard for me to tell. I do want to sort of make mention to folks that there was a wham hearing yesterday, and there has been multiple meetings across the state about some budget shortfalls that are coming because of the Maui recovery. So anything related to funding is yeah, I think we're just going to have to see if they get those hearings. So I couldn't give a good guess at this point.
At this point. You know, colleagues, I just wanted to let you know on this one, Senate Bill 2069, a big effort was made on our island and other islands as well with our Kapapakayapuni schools. And that's why we saw all the testimony coming in, but it came, even some of it came from the keikis themselves, but also there was great support for this measure all over the islands and from Big Island too. Good job. I know that you trustees were working on it too, because I heard about it up here. So good job for our keiki. Thanks for that, Kiopu. Good job.
Mahalo. And I did want to mention, if I could really quickly, when I didn't have the number in front of me, but the WAM info briefing showed that and there's if you had seen the news today, the headline is that the state's expecting to now have the Maui recovery efforts be at $1 billion. So just for folks, I knew that they had been talking about it for the last week, but I was able to get that number. So it is, when I say significant, I mean very significant. And so I do think we might see a lot. We may see a lot of bills stop at this point. Let's put it that way, because I think the money committees are going to have to be more frugal with what they have, given the downturn of what we thought they had to use for this second year of the biennium.
Members, any other questions or comments? Seeing none. If you can please take the floor.
Mahalo. So there were two items we were hoping to have the trustees or to put a recommendation in front of the trustees to change position. The first is item 288. And I will pause before I get into the discussion while Chantel moves us to item 288, which is HB 1689. So this bill is related to parrotfish or uhu, and thank you, Chantal. In prior matrices, we had recommended and got board approval for the position of oppose. Excuse me, oppose with comments. When we had originally done the analysis and made the recommendation, I mean, it was hard to tell, I guess, where the bill was coming from, just to be sort of straight and direct. And so we did see some concerns about, there's essentially two components to this bill. The first is that it would limit commercial spearfishing of parrotfish or uhu. And the second is an enforcement provision in which there would be no spearfishing. It's like at dawn and dusk, or before dawn or after dusk. And so those two combined, we felt pretty confident that we should oppose this measure and provide some comments about why and how it might be bettered if it did move forward. Quite frankly, I thought this bill might not actually make it to this point, but sort of at the last moment, it's gotten a hearing. And in getting a hearing, it's opened up the doors for us to sort of learn a little bit more about where the bill has come from and the rationale behind it. And so what we're really seeing is that in some, particularly in the subsistence fisheries, some communities have seen significant overfishing for commercialized sale of uhu. And it is typically with spearfishing. And so because of that, we do want to recommend a change to comments only, because when we support, and the administration supports or recommends supporting a limitation on that commercial spearfishing of uhu. What we have serious concerns about, and what we would like to express those serious concerns about, is the enforcement provision. We recognized our partners in the community who are Lava'i'a, who have actually, and in subsistence areas, that they want to have this carry forth, and they want to have these commercial catch limits decreased or done away with. But what we have the concerns about is the enforcement. First of all, enforcement in fisheries generally can be difficult. Let's put it that way. It can be very difficult. And so not only is enforcement unlikely to happen consistently, so, kind of defeating the purpose of having an enforcement position. On top of it, we are concerned that if and when enforcement happens, that it could have a disproportionate impact on Native Hawaiians, particularly Native Hawaiians practicing what they consider their culture of fishing. So that is the rationale behind changing from opposed with comments to comments only. We have been in conversations with community groups, and we feel like this is a good instance in which we can express our concerns and provide comments while still being supportive of the intent of the measure, of basically pulling down the limits and the ability for commercial spearfishermen or spearfishers to be overfishing the uhu population.
Yes, part of it is simply education. Our board vice chair, Travis.
I'd like to see the testimony on this one, Keopu. I really am not in support of changing this from opposing to comments. What we're seeing in Hawaii is that the uhu is being fished out on all islands. One of the things that took me to Guam a year ago was that the uhu is fished out in Guam, but also in other areas like Chuk, Pohnpei. We're losing it. When you take a look at what's happening with regard to the parrotfish, we can see a good example of it with what is happening now in Miloli'i. Miloli'i is the last community-based subsistence fishing area. It's called CBSFA, Community-Based Fishing, Subsistence Fishing Area. The one thing we don't have is the definition of what that means. So example is Miloli'i. We have one in Kona. But every other weekend, the aquarium owners, the guys that are in the pet shops, come every other weekend with one scoop net, take out all the babies, because Miloli'i doesn't have any power to stop people that are coming to take aquarium fish. The other thing that happens every weekend and all day through the summer is that tourist buses come and they drop off tourists who then cover themselves with suntan lotion. They have makeup and they go in the water. And the people in charge of the community-based subsistence fishing area cannot tell them, please don't enter the water with chemicals. So what we have are community-based fishing areas for tourists. But the people that are trying to protect the fish don't have any authority. I'm requesting on this one, staff, let me see what you have put together. If they're looking at, and there's only two ways we could do it. One is we got to either change the law too late this year to redefine CBSFA, or work with Don Chang and some of the others to put together rules and regs under the DLNR. Those are the two choices I see. But I'm very concerned with this. If we're going to change from opposed to comment, then I would like to work on it with you, Keopu, because the comment should be that we don't have the protected measures. That's why I'm kanalua about it. Because right now, we're at the brink. We're gonna lose the OHU, you guys. If we
Trustee
don't do
Trust.
something soon,
Yeah,
you know?
Trustee Trust, we have been in conversation regarding the different intents of the bill, and what was shared earlier is we do agree, and that would be part of our comments in opposition or comments in support regarding the commercial fishing, that we do not want that to continue. And then the other part of that is that we a lot of it is educating, yeah, educating our malihini, educating our kamaaina on proper protocol and what is appropriate in terms of making sure that we have this sustenance for our people and our cultural practices, and also being mindful of malamang in the malamang the and our waters. But regarding Kona, we did get feedback from those specifically on the Kona side, and with Shane Holocat Nelson regarding this, who represents us in the Kona, the West Side office, and to do our due diligence on the manao of our Hawaiian community to see what makes sense. And Kyoko, if you want to elaborate on that more.
Sure. Yeah, well, first of all, I very much hear you, Trustee Trask, and I think that echoes a lot of the concerns that our advocates have been talking about, as well as that we've been talking about with Chair Akaka that she had shared. And so when we were sort of, one of the things I think that surprised us, because I think we were pretty in our opposition, I don't think there's ever been a question, quite frankly, that it would be opposed with comments. That if we took a position and if we testified, it would be opposed with comments. What was surprising to me was hearing that it was some of the subsistence-based fisher lave'a, who were asking, who were sort of had proposed this legislation, quite frankly. And so that was where we, at that point, when we start to think about how do we work with community and how do we work carefully with community at the legislature, that's where we sort of took the pause. I did have a good conversation with Shane, and we are relying heavily on our folks who are the experts in these areas to ensure that we are getting that community input that is, that helps make sure that we're in particular being protective of the subsistence fishers, or the subsistence lave'a. So at this point, that is why we're coming to the trustees to recommend a change in position. But do know that in large part, we support the law, or the bill itself would limit commercial fishing, spearfishing of uhu. And so we support the limit on commercial fishing because of that overfishing issue, but our concerns come to the enforcement, and the way enforcement will either be, will likely be inadequate, and when it does happen, may have some significant impacts on Native Hawaiian lave'a. And so that's where the concerns are. So it's a two-part bill that is a little interesting, but I do want to reassure trustees that we have been working with folks who are in the community and who have connections into, in particular, the communities that are doing subsistence fishing.
Okay, members, any other questions or comments regarding that bill? No? Kyoko?
Okay, mahalo on that one. And then the second one, and the only other position change we are requesting the trustees consider, is on item 324. Which is SB 2289. This is, I think the shift in position for the last one, I think, was a little bit more significant than this one. What we would like to put in front of the trustees for consideration is a change in position from support to support with comments, or support with amendments. Our recommendation is support with comments, but if we can also talk through support with amendments if folks want to talk about specific language. But SB 2289 is essentially asking the Department of Health to provide detailed reporting on the transfer of Kalaupapa. And so this is something that OHA has had, and quite frankly, many Native Hawaiian organizations have had interest in for quite some time. And we've also had a lot of concerns, I should be frank, a lot of concerns over the transition as it's been happening, and the ways in which community broadly, community limited to Kalaupapa and to Molokai, as well as community with regard to Native Hawaiians have been involved or non-involved or consulted in the transfer. And so we had supported the more detailed reporting because we feel like that's a way to hold the Department of Health accountable. We have been in consultation with Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa, making sure that we're connected to the communities that would be most impacted by this. And we wanted to recommend sort of additional comments or amendments. Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa expressed concerns that we agree with, that even with the detailed reporting, we're concerned about whether or not or to what extent DOH provides information that is sort of practically useful for legislators. And so we sort of want to just make sure that we're highlighting that for legislators to ensure that there's sort of a closed loop to make sure that the reporting is very solid, so that way any actions that need to be taken in future legislative sessions can be taken. And we also share the concerns of the Ohana about engagement with the community, as I was mentioning previously. And so we'd like to just get the blessing of the trustees to provide comments on the need to have more encouraged, if not required, consultation with Native Hawaiians and coordination with Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa. There was a change, so the SD1 now says that the report has to report has to include engagement efforts of Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa. But our understanding is that it's not just engagement; they need to be like Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa needs to be helping with coordination. And so we do want to sort of highlight that it needs to be more meaningful than, a reach out or an email, that it needs to be meaningful engagement. And so we would like to provide those comments and ensure that we have the blessing and support of our Board of Trustees in adding those additional somewhat critical comments of the Department of Health.
Members, any questions or comments regarding this bill? Seeing none. If you want to continue.
Sure. So that's I'm happy to take questions on any of the bills that are on Matrix 3. Those are the highlights that I wanted to bring to trustees' attention, as well as the recommended position changes that we are recommending to the board for the Matrix 3 this week.
Members, any questions or comments regarding any of the bills on Matrix 3? Seeing none. Mahalo, Kyopo. Do we have a option?
No, I was thinking, wow, it looks much shorter in print. Like this is writing that boring that it just felt like 10 pages.
Hey, Arm Chawahe'e, your sound is on, yeah? Anyway, okay, do we have a motion up? Armchair Wahe'e, your sound is on, yeah? Okay, so. Okay, we have a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Board Chair.
I'd like to move to approve administration's recommendations on new bills, items 127 through 66, as listed on Matrix 3, 2024 OHA State Legislature, positions related to measures affecting Native Hawaiians, February 21, 2024, along with the following revisions. Bill position changes, item 288, House Bill 1689, from oppose with comments to comments. Item 324, Senate Bill 2289, from support to support with comments.
Second.
Seconded. Any questions or comments, member? I believe I saw Trustee Aquino. Trustee Aquino?
I was going to second, but that's been done.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, Nathan, can I please have a roll call vote?
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Board Chair Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Board Vice Chair Trask,
Aye.
Trustee Wahehe,
Yes.
Chair Akaka.
Aye.
7 yes votes, motion passes.
Mahalo, Nathan. We will now proceed on to Roman numeral number 3 with announcements. Other than us having our RM meeting at 1:30 PM today, do we have any other announcements, members? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Seconded. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Nathan, can I please have a roll call vote to adjourn?
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Board Chair Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Board Vice Chair Trask,
Aye.
Trustee Wahehe,
Yes.
Chair Akaka.
Aye.
7 yes votes, motion passes.
Mahalo, Nathan, and the meeting is now adjourned. Mahalo, members, all in attendance and all live streaming. Salamat po.
Hui ho.
Aloha.
Aloha.